In the animation world of culinary masterpieces, we have the award-winning Ratatouille, which in my opinion is one of the best movies ever. And then there's this, Ratatoing, a movie so bad that it makes you wonder, how did this even happen? Ratatoing has a 1.9 rating on IMDb, but this is just a rating. So let's find out just how bad this ripoff really is. The opening of the movie starts off with a nice little scenery of the city, and a narrator who says a whole lot of nothing. He doesn't really explain what city they're in, just that they're in a city. And honestly, from his first bit of animation, it's just bad. The animation is not that good, but I won't judge it off animation. I'll judge it by the story. So the narrator starts by introducing Ratatoing as a favorite bistro that many people travel to just to taste the recipes. Our main protagonist, Marcel Towing, is then introduced, who's also the owner of Ratatoing, and is made out to be like Gordon Ramsay with the rodents. Compared to Ratatouille being based on an actual restaurant, this movie is based on a restaurant that is specifically for rats. I mean, it is good for them to keep it original, I guess. The narrator just keeps going though, saying how Marcel always uses secret ingredients, and the camera pans over to the waitress, who then puts down this plate of slop with worms and peas in it. I mean, it could have been like a pie or potato dinner, but honestly, the quality of this movie is just so bad that I really couldn't even tell you. The old rat that receives a random pie starts saying how delicious it smells, and already this dude's voice was annoying me. And if you guys ever played Skyrim and heard Cicero's nails on a chalkboard dialogue, then I imagine you probably have the same flashbacks I got that I didn't even ask for. I mean, this guy literally sounds like he inhaled helium while gargling on gravel. Anyways, this couple just starts going on this ramble about how the food is always delicious and they never have any doubts. The waitress thanks them, telling them how she'll let Marcel know because he loves compliments. And the old guy then tells the waitress how he would love to meet Marcel. The scene shifts, and it's kind of hard to follow because again, we hear how amazing the food is from his other table of rats. And in the midst of this, the waitress is attempting to take the other guy's order, who has no idea what he wants and is just being really indecisive. We jump back to the table of food-loving rats who are just rambling about how good the food is, only to see that there is a literal fly in this dude's soup. So he calls the waitress over. Now at first I'm sitting here thinking, ew, there's a fly in his food. But come to find out, he literally ordered fly soup and was actually complaining about the wrong sauce he got. The waitress then smells the soup and tells him that he's wrong. And get this, the guy just accepts it. He doesn't even question it. No argument, no second guessing, just a casual, oh, you're right, my bad. At this point, I'm just thrown off. This movie is honestly just all over the place because then this table starts saying how disgusting the dish he ordered is. The waitress then goes back to check on Marcel, and he's just sitting here mixing the same tin can pot of soup that he's been mixing since his character was introduced. Marcel then asks if table 4 is ordered yet, and the waitress tells him, yeah.
He ordered tonight's special, the larva pie.
Marcel starts getting sad or mad. I don't know, I really couldn't tell, but he's upset because he wished that the waitress would have told him sooner, because I guess the pie takes a long time to make. We also find out from this scene that her name is actually Carol. The other waiter then runs in, telling us that table 4 has changed her order again. Carol guesses what he ordered because apparently this guy always orders the same thing, to which Marcel replies with, I'm glad you know the ordering habits of your clientele. This next part just makes me giggle because Carol then turns her body away from Marcel and winks at him. Does this add to the story? Nope, but it's there. The movie continues to go on to different tables, having pointless conversations that don't seem to add anything to the plot. From this point in the movie, there have been 2 different times that tables have asked what ingredients they use and how they got their ingredients. I feel like this may have something to do with the story, but I'm not sure yet. Anyways, Carol goes back into the kitchen to get dessert for a table and calls Marcel handsome, and then asks if he's ready to go on more food adventures. I'm not sure what's going on here, Marcel and Carol, but maybe it'll be explained further in the story. But it's kind of odd right now. Like, are they co-workers, dating, or just friends? Carol finally tells him how there's a table that wants to meet him. Marcel's response just throws me off. He says,
oh, please, you know how much I dislike facing customers.
He says this in kind of a worried tone that confuses me because he now want to talk to the customers. Was he anxious? Was he happy? It's really hard to tell. Back to the table of rats. Again, they're begging to know the secret ingredient for the food, and the waiter tells them how he's literally just a waiter and doesn't know anything. The guys start grilling him, thinking that he must know something and that it's not possible he doesn't know anything. I don't understand what is up with this obsession with the secret ingredient, but the guys can just not take no for an answer and demand to see Marcel. The waiter starts explaining how Marcel is busy and won't be able to come out, but then we see Marcel walk out of the kitchen, finally walking over to the table of oldies. And this makes the waiter look so bad because now he looks like a liar. And this table cannot take a hint either. Cutting back over to the old couple, they're just raving about how good the food is again, and I'm just wondering if this movie will ever pick up and talk about something else. This whole topic of the food being good seems to just be dragging on and on. The couple continue to ask what the secret ingredient is, and the other group of rats pick up on this and think that it's their chance to finally find out too. What makes the food here at Ratatoing so special? Marcel takes like a whole minute to respond, keeping everyone on the edge of their seats, eager to find out what the secret is. But of course, he isn't going to give away a secret ingredient, and says the most anticlimactic answer imaginable about how the secret ingredient is lots of hard work and dedication. Everyone is disappointed by this answer, and the other table of rats that can't take a hint call Marcel over to the table. I don't know why they expect Marcel to tell them what the secret is when he didn't even tell the other table, and when they ask him what the secret is, Marcel starts getting upset because he keeps being asked the same question over and over, and he notices that the lady at the table has her notebook ready to take notes if he spills the beans. And things start getting heated because he starts questioning the lady on why she has a notebook out. And to the viewers, it's pretty obvious why they do, but the rats come up with this lame excuse saying that they're Marcel's biggest fans and just want his autograph. Marcel somehow falls for this too and writes his autograph on the notebook. And this part gets cut short because the waiter yells to Marcel that there was an accident in the kitchen. The rats then start mocking him by calling him stupid stupid and saying he's not very smart because he didn't even notice on the notebook that the heading was the secret ingredients of Ratatoing. I'm not even gonna lie, as bad as this movie is so far, I'm kind of starting to wonder what the secret ingredient is, and I imagine that'll be revealed later in the story. Marcel then rushes back into the kitchen, panicking that there was an accident, but there actually wasn't an accident, and the waiters are just trying to help Marcel get away from those nosy clients, and Marcel is relieved. Then the Ratatoing staff starts to get ready for their nightly mission, and the group of rats that couldn't take a hint earlier are walking out of the restaurant, and they are angry that they didn't get the secret, and we come to find out that these group of rats actually have their own restaurant, and the reason they want to know the secret so bad was so that they can improve their restaurant, and supposedly if Ratatoing wasn't in town, they'd probably be considered the best restaurant, which is such a generic idea. I'm pretty much watching SpongeBob and Ratatouille, and I feel like I already have an idea where it's gonna go, but we'll see how it plays out. So I start to plan a way to take Marcel out and expose his weaknesses because there's no way to compete against him. We then get this action scene of a staff of Ratatoing suiting up to go on their night mission, and it feels like I'm watching an overly dramatic spy movie parody, except the animation is so awful that it feels like an eternity watching these poorly animated rats strap on goggles and zip up their jumpsuits to this epic, completely unearned action music, and it really makes you question what the animators were thinking when creating this part. This scene unreasonably lasts almost 2 minutes long until they are finally ready and head out. The group of restaurant spy rats then start to blame each other for their loss of success, and not only are they eating a Ratatoing every night, but they're also plotting its downfall. These rival rats have literally neglected their own restaurant to steal Marcel's so-called secret ingredient and can't seem to take any accountability for the reason their restaurant is doing so poorly. We also find out that they left a notebook inside Ratatoing, which would expose them if anyone find out, but they can't seem to agree on anything, so I don't know what their plan is as far as going back into Ratatoing to retrieve the notebook or staying away from Ratatoing so that they can improve their restaurant. I have no idea. Marcel and his team of waiters then flip open a light switch and enter into a human-sized kitchen, which I imagine is their secret to their success. The lady spy rat that left a notebook then decides to go back into the restaurant to grab her notebook and seems surprised when the place is completely empty. She runs over and grabs her notebook and of course can't help but snoop around since no one is there. Also, why is this place not locked up? What is that about? Anyways, Marcel then finds some fresh strawberries and uses his grappling hook to get him close enough to grab them. He swings back and hands a strawberry to Carol, and it seems like he swings backward, but we come to find out the other waiter actually turned on the fan for absolutely no reason, which causes Marcel to start swinging in circles. The waiter, being so painfully stupid, decides to grab onto Marcel instead of just turning off the fan, now joining him in this merry-go-round. This part is so frustrating too, because they can't seem to find a way to turn off the fan when the switch is literally right behind Carol, and she can't comprehend anything he's saying, just standing there looking confused. While this circus unfolds, the nosy spy rat sneaks into the same human-sized kitchen in shock, because she's finally figured out what the big secret ingredient is, and how they steal everything from the humans. And this big secret is so underwhelming, and completely deflates all the tension they've been building for the past 20 minutes. Anyways, the spy rat, after stooping around them, decides to quickly leave before they can see her. But I'm pretty sure that Marcel and his waiters saw her, but they were so sick from spinning in circles that they didn't even realize or process fully what they just saw. They return back to Ratatoing from their dangerous mission with one little strawberry. That's right, after all that struggling and spinning, they come back with one singular strawberry. And Marcel is mad at the other waiter, whose name we find out to be is Greg, because he could have got them killed. But the Ratatoing staff are happy that they're able to bring back the one little strawberry. And Marcel even goes on saying how this will last them a whole week, which makes no sense. Meanwhile, the spy rat then returns back to her group and, with no hesitation, immediately starts to tell them exactly what happened and how Marcel is stealing fresh food from the humans. These guys are in disbelief, and even after knowing the secret, they don't know how to keep up with Marcel because of how dangerous it can be to steal food from humans. Then the movie tries to create tension, but instead creates a headache by rambling on how they decide to sabotage the process of him getting the fresh food and then start talking about cats. They don't even really explain their plan, and then all of a sudden, without any explanation or transition, they teleport to underneath the table of the human kitchen where there's a human sitting at the table eating. And this is kind of comical because they were just freaking out about how dangerous it was to be around humans, and then that logic just goes completely out the window because here they are inches away from one. So they come out from under the table and start doing the most disturbing thing I've ever seen. The rats burst into this weird choreographed dance. I don't know what's creepier, the dancing or the noises they're making doing it. Anyways, the humans notice that the rats are in their house, and instead of acting like a normal person, they don't do anything about it but stomp in place and scream. And of course, the rats calmly walk out of the house completely unbothered while the humans are doing who knows what. Also, the animators were too lazy to animate the actual humans, so all we see is their feet followed by the audible dialogue. But I guess the rival restaurant rats are excited because I guess whatever they just did was a great plan. I don't even know what they just did, but I guess it's gonna affect Ratatoing somehow. And 1 week later at Ratatoing, the customers start to complain about how they're tired of the strawberry. And honestly, this isn't much of a surprise because what did they expect? But this means that it's time for another mission tonight. And of course, we get another scene of them suiting up, but thankfully this one is shorter than the first one. They head back out into the kitchen to get fresh ingredients, and this time there's a whole bunch of fresh ingredients, but we immediately notice that they're sitting right on top of traps. And now I kind of understand what the rival rats were doing, and it was kind of smart, I'm not gonna lie. But anyways, Carol seems to be the only one that picks up on this by saying how she has a bad feeling, but Marcel, our culinary genius, doesn't have any thoughts and starts heading straight for the bait and gets whacked backwards from the trap. And then as if the audience didn't already understand what just happened, he says, "The food was attached to a trap." And this part was just kind of silly because he was just stating the obvious. We know Marcel, we saw. Anyways, Marcel walks around the kitchen checking things out and conveniently finds another fresh ingredient on the countertop. He grapples over and it's a whole bar of chocolate, and they're excited because they never had a bar of chocolate before. And Marcel starts trying to pick up this bar and can't seem to lift it up. And honestly, it's kind of sad watching him visibly struggle, make these straining noises. Now I'm thinking that they're gonna have to collaborate or figure out a different way to get the chocolate bar. Then he just lifts it up, and right behind him, there's just a cat chilling in the sink. And the cat starts meowing. And I don't know why no one heard the cat or said anything, because not until Marcel turns around that I notices the cat. Marcel starts to run from the cat. And as the chase begins, I started to question whether or not that was an actual cat, because why was it built like Wario and running on its hind legs? And this chase is so unrealistic because it seems like they're just flying around, and then Marcel somehow goes from barely being able to lift up a chocolate bar to sprinting around with it and then holding a chocolate bar with his legs. Maybe it's adrenaline, plot convenience, I don't know, logic is out the window. Anyways, Carol tells Marcel to forget about the chocolate, and he ends up throwing it with his legs at the cat, which seems to knock him out, and Marcel doesn't know what to do, and the team seems defeated because they're unable to get their secret ingredient. So they decide to just try to make do with what they have. We cut back over to the restaurant, to the rat couple that seem to be Marcel's only customers at this point, who are trying to order, but they don't have a lot of things on the menu. And of course, the rival rats are spending their time at Ratatoing again, because it seems like they had nothing better to do than to watch Marcel's downfall instead of actually trying to build their failing restaurant. They start getting excited because their plan worked, but their restaurant, as far as we know, is still in shambles. They start talking about having one of their guys go to the human kitchen to get fresh ingredients, but this guy is complaining about how it's scary and how we can't do that. And this story is super inconsistent, considering that they were just in the kitchen with these humans and had no problem being there. Then it's another Thursday night, which means it's time to get ingredients. Marcel says that they have to at least try, because Ratatouille is suffering tremendously because of this. And I'm sure you guessed it, but we get to see the same repetitive scene of them suiting up into gear before they head into the kitchen. Carol tells Marcel to be careful, and Marcel is feeling reckless, and without any thinking, swings over to the counter and starts calling out for the cat. Even Carol was confused by this, because he's just acting careless. I'm also confused on why Carol and Greg just stand there the entire time, while Marcel is the only one who's actually going out and grabbing the ingredients. The cat then appears behind him, standing on its hind legs, and Marcel surprises all of us by trying to reason with the cat, while Carol and Greg grab the cheese. The restaurant spies also walk into the kitchen and watch as the Ratatouille team just fearlessly grab fresh ingredients. But the cat notices this, and Marcel keeps trying to keep the cat's focus on him, but the cat is just staying there awkwardly. They start to go into another chase because Marcel hits the cat, and Marcel's whiny, panicking voice is getting pretty annoying at this point, and eventually the rivals have little toothpicks or swords in their hands and are trying to rob Greg and Carol, telling them to hand over the cheese. Greg tells them that there's plenty of cheese, and why don't they just grab some from the table? But the other rats, of course being the worst villains to exist, just start arguing back and forth with them, and Carol points out that there's a monster behind them, and they don't believe her until the cat catches them. And again, with no explanation, Marcel has tamed the cat and was sitting on its head in complete control, telling the cat to take these two rats to their boss. We don't even know what happens next, but the Ratatouille staff makes it back to the restaurant, reminiscing about their kitchen trip, and Carol and Greg were wondering how he was able to tame the cat, and come to find out, he had a homemade snack on him that he used to tame the cat, which how convenient for him that he just had a homemade snack on him. And the movie ends with Ratatouille going back to normal, but now their cat is one of their customers, which makes me wonder how the cat was able to even fit through the tiny mouse hole doors. As far as the other two rat rivals, they start talking about how much they miss the other rats, and it's kind of sad because who knows where the other ones went, and there's no closure for this because the last thing we see was them being turned over to the humans. And what feels like the longest bowling alley strike video ever, it finally comes to an end, and I cannot believe I even sat there and watched that entire movie. A full third of this movie is nothing but dialogue from the customers about how amazing the food and chef is, and the plot was painfully repetitive. I mean, how many times did we have to listen to people ask about the secret ingredient? This movie suffers from a lack of originality and meaningless character decisions, and by the end of the movie, none of the characters evolve or learn anything, and truly, there was just a lack of effort put into this. This movie is pretty bad, and honestly deserved the rating of 1.9. Overall, maybe if the animation was better, it could pass as a decent kids movie, but it would never top the original Ratatouille. Now, although this movie was bad, making a movie is really hard, so I have some respect for them being able to make an entire 40-minute animation. That's really impressive. The story is just not that good. I'm so sorry, but good job. I could not make a movie. But I don't know. I'm just talking about Ratatouille's off Ripoff, the Ripoff of Ratatouille. That's what I'm talking about. Ratatouille Ripoff, Ratatoing. What is Ratatoing? Ratatoing. Toe.